Alright, in this video we're going to work with fractions. Alright, as kind of a review, fractions are a much more simpler concept that we do in just regular mathematics, but in algebra they come into play and become much more important. So we're going to do a video really quickly reviewing what fractions are. And fractions are just parts of whole numbers. Okay, so it's not a full thing, right? So if you have an apple, okay, a fraction would be if you cut that apple in half, you have a fraction of the apple. It's just a piece of a whole number. All right, and in math, we write them like this. Okay, this is a fraction with just numbers in it. In algebra, you're going to see more complex fractions, like potentially something that looks like this, or maybe something that looks like that. Okay, but they're still fractions. They're still parts of whole numbers. Okay, and so when we deal with them, there are certain ways that we have to do things when we're adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing, which I'm going to go through here in some of my examples. Okay, when we're adding and subtracting, we have to have what's called a common denominator. The bottom number of the fraction has to be the same. Okay, and if it's not, you can't add or subtract them. So for instance, in this case right here, we have 1/5 and 1/6. They have different denominators. Their numerators are the same, the top number, but their denominators are different. So we have to change their denominators so that they're the same. All right, and we do that by multiplying each one until we get the correct denominator. So for instance, okay, if we wanted to find a common denominator between 5 and 6, my best guess would be that it would be 30. Okay, it's the lowest number that they're both multiplied to. And so if I multiply this one by 6 over 6, and this one by 5 over 5, I would get 6/30 plus 5/30, which you can see now they have the same denominator and I can add them. So I'll add them up, and I'll end up getting a final answer of 11/30. Okay? When you're dealing with variables, it's the same thing, okay? You have to multiply by something to make the denominators the same. In this case, it's going to be xy is our common denominator. So this one needs a y in the denominator, so I'm going to multiply it by y over y, and this one will be x over x. What I'm really doing is multiplying by 1, but I'm writing 1 in a specific way, y over y, so that it'll look the way I want it to look. I'm not changing the expression, I'm just making it look the way I want it to look. When I do that, I'm going to end up getting YAB over XY plus CDX over XY, which I can then add to get YAB plus CDX over XY. Okay? So remember, when you're adding and subtracting, you have to have a common denominator. When it's a number, it's really easy. You just find a multiple of both of the numbers. When it's variables, usually you just multiply the variables together, and that ends up being your common denominator. When you multiply, things are a little different. Your denominators don't matter. You don't have to have the same denominator to multiply something when it's a fraction. You just multiply the top with the top and the bottom with the bottom. So I'll multiply 1 times c, I get c. Multiply a times 3, that's 3a. That's my final answer right there. So when you multiply, like terms and denominators don't necessarily matter. You can just multiply everything together. When you divide, it's a little different. As you can see here, I've got 1 over b divided by c over d. And when we divide fractions, we have to flip the bottom fraction. Okay? We make it the reciprocal. So we flip c over d over and make it d over c, and then we multiply. D times 1 is d, b times c is bc. Okay? So remember, when you divide fractions, you have to flip over the second fraction. That makes sure, it's a way to ensure that you get the correct answer. Okay? It's a trick. So when we're dealing with fractions, remember, they're just parts of whole numbers. There's nothing scary about them. When you add, you have to have a common denominator. When you multiply and divide, it doesn't matter what the denominator is, but you got to make sure that you flip when you divide.